All right, and we are going. Let me make sure this music is muted, and I've got somebody already here in the queue. Well, well, well. If it isn't my dear friend Double Portion, or never mind, I won't out your name. I don't. I think I already have those. So I don't know if it matters.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's Diani.
Mm,
How are you doing? I haven't seen you since Sunday.
Doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. Feel a little
Excellent.
underdressed. I didn't know it was a formal event.
I don't know. It's part of the branding question mark. I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. I got this new bumper. I got like the little ad things. Trying to do something.
How have you been? What's how's work?
Oh man, work's been okay. So Kenny doesn't believe. Oh, maybe I shouldn't say his name. Anyway, our friend doesn't believe me. But 4-day weeks are the worst, and that like you get a 3-day weekend, but then you pay for it in school. Um, it has dragged so bad. It's not been a bad week necessarily, but it's been really slow. And so I'm very much ready for tomorrow to happen.
Yeah. I don't know. For school, it makes a little bit more sense, but for my work, it's just there's not been too much different.
No. You
Yeah.
had Monday off too, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you do?
Monday, the youth had a get together at one
Okay.
of the youth's parents' house. So I
Okay.
took my
Cool.
nephew over there, hung out, had a lot of fun, and then of course I
Nice.
went to Yale afterwards.
Of
That's why I was a
course.
little late. I had to take it back home.
All good. Well, on the docket tonight, we're actually technically talking about yams and estuary by that extension. There's a couple things I wanted to discuss. Maybe I'll pull up my cool branding. Ooh, I did it. Look at that. Like it just showed up. A couple things I'd like to talk about tonight, including but not limited to the tension and finding the balance between the physical spaces that are salient to us and the corner. This might be less pertinent for us as we're still kind of lurkers in this space for the most part. Talking about building a community IRL, I kind of really want to focus on that. And by extension, kind of what estuary has been like in Yams the last couple weeks. Uh, I probably won't actually talk about comics unless somebody really wants to. Neil Daedalus should show up at some point, maybe. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But that's kind of the agenda for tonight. Just a couple different talking points. But community, Yams, estuary. What do you think of estuary right now? We kind of co-opted it, and I don't know if it's really exactly what estuary is when people discuss it here in the corner and in these spaces.
No, uh, hmm, since it not kind of it has completely grown out of our already church group, and everyone who attends also comes to our church. It's it's definitely been very faith centered so far. All the ones we've done, we haven't really ventured off out of the charted territory of Christianity. With like the procedure and like actually going through it, I feel like it's a pretty standard history.
Okay.
People are still trying to get used to it. The idea of being able to speak because we're doing it. It's the church group that's doing it. We're doing it in the church building. I feel like no one really wants to push any boundaries or ask any really questions. But
I don't know.
I
I
think
feel
that
like
comes
some of
with
the
time.
questions we've gotten have been pretty good. There's certainly things that wouldn't get brought up in the sanctuary.
Oh, I guess I missed most of that one. That seemed like the most interesting one.
That was the
Sad I
big
missed it.
one. Yeah, that was the big one with like, why do we bother being a Christian and the predestination question. Yeah, that was the big one.
For me personally, something I'm kind of struggling with Vestory, like uh, when we do it, it's been emphasized that we're not supposed to give answers per se. We're just supposed to discuss it. But a lot of these issues, a lot of things, the questions we do ask, my perspective on it is an answer that I've come to, or at least the beginnings of an answer. So I always hesitate a little to like say anything definitive. But that's pretty much the only thing I have to say. So I don't
That's
know like
fair.
that's a line
I
that should
mean,
be drawn or not.
we've gotten like advice thrown out, answers kind of given for people, and I suppose maybe the caveat is kind of just like take what you will of that which is presented, because we often give the caveat too that like just because something is said does not necessarily mean in the moment that it is true. Henceforth, right, potentially explore your own thing, do your own study, and all that. Hi, Mark S. Welcome. Welcome to the Thursday night chill out post Midwestuary stream. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm still figuring it out because I don't think I've actually ever participated in actual estuary either online. I show up and hang out on the House of Woo and do that, but I don't think it's ever estuary, because Mark T. Parker runs things very differently there, which I like the way he runs it. It is just kind of like, what you guys doing? And then we just start talking. Because like that protocol is technically just in place there, but I've never done the real deal kind of thing. And I wonder if being a part of one of those would maybe um, change or shape kind of the way the ones that we do as a group moving forward.
Have you actually looked at the like the written out protocol, or you just kind of picked it up from watching it?
I may or may not have just picked it up from watching it. I did not read the protocol.
Because watching a couple of Paul's recent videos, I feel like there's something like an extra step or something that's in the protocols that helps to run it. I haven't
Okay,
read it either, but
maybe we should do that.
yeah, there's a clue in there somewhere.
I don't know. It's things to figure out. What I really like so much about kind of integrating it is that it's kind of helped spur new interest in the group, and it has helped to kind of expedite community and expedite kind of closeness, at least in understanding where people are coming from in a way that it hasn't existed before.
I'm wondering how do we get people who aren't necessarily Christians to come to it? Because I think that would bring a different perspective. That would really get the
Sure.
conversation going.
Yeah, I don't know. That's problem is our networks in terms of like where the people we know and our like our ties and our webs um and getting people there. I don't know how you would advertise estuary either to like the area.
Because it seems like all of the bigger estuaries that like go on regularly, they're in cities where
Yep.
there's much larger networks of people that you can get in contact with. But we're in a smaller town, not very small, but it's not a city. And like you said, there's
No.
not too much opportunity.
If I can get in with the college ministry in some way and partnership with them, which that might potentially be on the horizon, that would be really interesting to try and be like, hey, let's try this out with you guys and see where that goes. Because that would be a very different crowd as well that's coming into that ministry. I think Mark S, we have like consistently, like I think a core group about 6 to 8. I think that's our number. If I'm just remembering people offhand without counting them on my like fingers under the table. So yeah, we have a pretty strong core group. But it is a small group, certainly. Um, especially when it comes to like a young adult college group kind of thing. A YAMS group, if you will. At church, yeah, it is at church. It's our young adult group, as sponsored by the church. We have like our own. Time we have our own building. It's really a multi-purpose building. So the boomers use it. It's used Wednesday nights for like the children's ministry stuff. It's used for oddball events. The Boomers have another Bible study there Wednesday mornings. But our name's on the building. Our name's on the building. So that's all that matters.
Yeah, but the sign's kind of like to the side. You can hardly see it
Yeah.
really unless you're looking for it. Man, that's what we
So,
should use the
I,
Yams budget for, the bigger sign.
oh my, there are other things I'd like to use that budget for before using a bigger sign. I think just being like, I don't know, it's the building with the basketball court is kind of enough right now. So, but yeah, I'm enjoying trying the estuary thing. I think doing it every other week is good because I don't want that to become what the group is and all it does. Yes, you do look for a sign, but the sign sometimes is the building itself. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. My bad. You can't really miss the church from the side of the road either. Like if you're describing it to somebody, you'd be like, "Hey, it's that really big gray church building, and behind it there's a basketball court in this house. You can go there." I'm just doxing us. It's fine.
Well, how do you really pitch estuary to like someone who hasn't done it or doesn't really know anything about it?
That's a really
Like,
good
say,
question.
we go there, we sit around and talk.
It's that whole like the wife is like, "Oh, what'd you do?" "Oh, I don't know. We kind of just talked." And then you don't add anything else. I feel like it's that. Well, well, well. Look who has joined us tonight in the Thursday night post-Midwestuary chill out. It's none other than Neil Daedalus. Welcome, Neil, to the
¿Qué
show.
pasando?
No hablo español, habla
Oh,
inglés. Now I feel like I'm talking to my poor students who really need a teacher who's bilingual.
don't let me interrupt. You guys keep
Oh,
going. Get a good
sure,
thing
sure.
going.
We're talking about that estuary life right now. Yeah, so pitching the estuary feels like it's like I don't know, it'd be like we talk. It gets kind of deep. Like that's nobody's gonna like get sold on that from the outside unless you're like I don't know. Because like when I pitched it initially, I was just like, guys, we're gonna try this thing. If you don't want to do it, you can say no, and we have a contingency. Because like my co-leader friend, he had he all right, everybody's in here. So my co-leader, he was like had a lesson on standby. So when we presented it, we were like, all right, this is how it works. This is kind of where it came from. I'll give you the ground rules. And everybody was like, oh, I guess we'll do it. And then like they just like pretty much like jumped right into it. It's kind of surprisingly. And now I think for the most part, everybody kind of gets kind of what we're doing when we say that, at least since it's the same 6 people in the core group. And participation varies. We have some people who just kind of like to listen, and I think that's enough for them to do that, which is
What's
nice.
your age mix?
18 to 28, I think.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Not counting one of our leaders who's not 28 but older than that, but it's okay.
It's okay. He's 28 at heart.
He's 28. Oh, he's very much 28 at heart.
And how long have you guys been going?
We started it probably about a month ago because I've been running them like every other week in the group.
Gotcha.
But I've been threatening to do it for months and then just finally did it.
Well, now comes the hard part because you have the hype cycle where in the first couple of weeks, like, this is awesome, this is so cool. And then it's like hype cycle
Well,
drops.
that's why it's every other week. We kind of also use estuary to gauge interest in topics for study and for like our lessons that my co-leader and friend like do. So we had this like predestination conversation that came up in the topics, and that has kind of springboarded an exploration for lessons like every other week now. So like last week we talked about we actually like set up defined terms. It was all about uh providence, and then I ended up reading John Calvin off of the internet trying to make sense of some of the stuff. So
What was the gist of Calvin's argument?
he was looking at the he thinks that the term free will is kind of too important for the term or the idea that man um has the choice to break away from merely their compulsions of evil. Like that was his thing. He's like, yeah, you kind of only are doing ill, but it's that like Genesis like 5 thing of like thou mayest choose to like not let sin crouch at your door, thou mayest choose life. It's that kind of deal is what I kind of got the vibe from. Um, I need a resident Calvinist to come in here and tell me no, that's not how that works. But that was kind of my read in the moment because I was just making that like text connection, which only I think only I understood. That was East of Eden.
Yeah, I'm like a free will pragmatist, meaning that it appears to me that I can choose things, and those decisions or those choices have consequences that matter.
Sure.
That's how it appears to me. So I act like appearances are reality because it seems to matter when I choose poorly. So
That's fair. That's fair. No, that tracks.
It seems like he's trying to make a distinction between the act of our choosing. We can't choose what it is we please to do, and our inclinations, what we tend to choose, or why we choose the things we choose. He says we have free will in the sense that we're able to do whatever we want to do, but he says our will isn't free, and that we're in bondage to sin, that we're always inclined to choose, and we can't, our own volition, choose to do the good because we're inclined to do the evil. That's how I understood it.
That's Saint Paul. It's Paul of Tarsus.
I do
Why
the
do I?
things
Yeah.
sorry, you can
Go,
finish the
no,
quote.
you read it. Yeah.
I do the things I don't want to do, and I don't do the things I do want to do. Wretched flesh that this is. Something. It's pretty baller lines from your boy Paul.
But we don't give ourselves credit for all the things that we do that we should do, or the things that we don't do that we shouldn't do. And we need to give ourselves credit for when we actually do good. Like you don't confess your virtue after doing a good thing. So
No,
you
my
only
right hand must never know what my left hand does.
well played. Well
That's
played.
actually something I've kind of been like really thinking about recently. That's really piqued my interest. It's because I was reading First Corinthians, and in it, Paul goes on this little tangent about how the apostles, they have a right to make money or to make a living off of the gospel, like the other apostles do. He mentions James and Peter, that they have wives and they have families, but he says that he doesn't want that to happen. He says he has a right to it, but he doesn't want that because you'll be taking his reward from him. And he says the preaching of the gospel itself doesn't get him any reward because he's under compulsion of it. But in preaching it, when he does it freely, when he does it under all the extra suffering that he sees himself going through by supporting himself, by not being a burden to the people, he sees that as getting a reward for himself. And he's happy for it. He says, I don't want you to take away my reward from me by supporting me financially. And it got me thinking about, is that like should we think of our good deeds like that as earning a reward for ourselves? Because Jesus does say, store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. And I've
Okay,
always, yeah.
No, that's great. Let me tell you a parable, and let me tell you what I think about the parable. And because I love what you just dropped. Okay, so here's the parable. You might have heard it before. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire workers for his vineyard, and he agreed to pay them a day's wage for the day and sent them into his vineyard. So about 9 in the morning, he went out. He saw others standing in the marketplace doing nothing. So he told them, "You also go and work in my vineyard, and I will pay you whatever is fair." So they went. And he went out again about noon, and about 3 in the afternoon did the same thing. And at 5 in the afternoon, he went out, and still others were standing around. So he asked them, "Why have you been standing here all day long doing nothing?" "Because no one has hired us," they answered. So he said to them, "You also go and work in my vineyard." So when evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, "Call the workers and pay them their wages, beginning with the ones that were hired last and then going on to the first." So the workers who were hired about 5 p.m. came and each received a denarius, a day's wage. So when those who were hired first, they expected to receive more. But each one of them also received the same, a denarius. And when they received it, they began to grumble. And they said, those who were hired last worked only 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us and have borne the burden of the work in the heat of the day. But he answered them, I'm not unfair to you, friend. Didn't you agree to work for a denarius, a day's wage? Take your pay and go. Don't I have the right to do what I want with my own money? Or are you envious because I'm generous? So what if heaven, so here's what I think. What if the joke of heaven is you get to heaven and God's like, all right, now you get to work even harder? Because the kingdom is actually the vineyard, meaning the reward is they had 12 hours to work in the vineyard. They had a full 12 hours. The guy who repents on his deathbed, he wasted his whole life. He didn't have the opportunity to work in the vineyard except for 10 seconds when he repents at the end of his life. But maybe that's not as important as we think, because I think it is actually really important. But maybe what comes after this is like, oh, you had one talent, here you get one, you get 3 talents, you get 3, etc. And the whole Mai Tai on a beach version of heaven, I don't think so.
This supports that thing. I don't know if Diani has anything to say, because I might wait, but this takes me back to something that we had a conversation in private that I then tried to pitch to the estuary. Nobody had it. Nobody was picking it up. The whole like Jesus as gardener thing has like stuck with me since we had that conversation on the phone, and I've really thought about that. Right, Jesus is mistaken for a gardener who tends to the earth, and it's an Edenic thing, right? He's also in a resurrected body, and then we talked, right, he can't like stick around because like the story dictates that he needs to ascend, because otherwise the narrative gets boring. But what would we do in the new heaven and new earth? I know some people in our church I know very closely are always like, we're going to go explore, we're going to do these things. But I kind of like that idea of like, there's some gardens and there's some things you need to do. You got to cultivate the land. You got to, like, are we almost that like the first commission, like, again, not necessarily the be fruitful part. I think that's a different thing, but like certainly like tend to the new creation that has been brought before you.
I think that when C.S. Lewis talks about it, does the last battle, like the further up and further in, I think that's exactly it. The further up and further in. Yeah. It's like everything we did in this life, in this world, is going to apply and matter, but it's just more so, and things are more intense and more real and more consequential. I don't know. I'm speculating. I don't know. So Lord, forgive me but that would be an easy way to have people self-select into heaven,
Sure. Mark S., welcome. Do you want to add anything to this conversation before I hear Diani's hot wisdom, his 3-point shot, as we'll say in our group?
No, take the shot.
All
Okay.
right, you're setting people up for failure, for disappointment. But yeah, I agree with that idea. It seems almost impossible to me that there's nothing to do in heaven besides singing songs. There's so many things that we can't do fully here. Even I like to think a lot about animals, like the relationships we could have with animals, and tending to them and leading them and giving them life, like good lives, caring for them, loving them, that we can't really do fully the way the world is now. Like we're supposed to be shepherds of the world, almost like the physical world, like nature, animals, and we fail at that miserably. So I don't see God just scrapping that whole idea and everything just becomes spirit. And no, there's described a physical world afterwards, that there's things to do. The variety of things to do, I don't know. But there's definitely things to do that we can't do here, that you can kind of see the beginnings of, like, oh, that would be great, or that would be amazing, but it's impossible now. And we see, especially a lot in the prophets, and like Isaiah or Jeremiah are talking about afterwards, the triumph, the new heavens and new earth. They talk about everyone will sit under his own tree, and they'll have their own flock, and they'll be having meals together. We'll be helping each other. That we'll go on a journey together to go see the Lord, for Him to judge between the people, and things like that. Sounds pretty good.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
There's a great 50s Disney animated cartoon. Maybe it's the 40s. It's in this kind of weird stint where I think budgets were low and they were making back to kind of like serial like movie bumpers and stuff, but they did one for Johnny Appleseed. And Johnny Appleseed's a whack person. I've looked at it. He's not, he's got some weird stuff. But this cartoon's really I grew up on it, so I'm very nostalgic for it. There's really sweet song in it where I guess his guardian angel is like, Johnny, you gotta go out there and you gotta plant those apple seeds. But they have this great song, and the end line is he's like, take up your kettle or whatever and keep going. Like, there's a lot of work out there to do, and it's a really great. It's got that quintessential like old 50s like chorus sound to it. Maybe I'll pull it up and try and like play it on the stream. But I think of that like there's a lot of work to do, both like now in the anticipation of the kingdom of heaven. There's a lot of work to do right when it gets fulfilled. I don't know. That just comes to my mind. I'm gonna try and find.
I like this topic. That's why I came on for a second, because I like what all you guys are saying, and I think about like how there used to be a Sabbath, you know, like in the church I grew up in. It's like, well, 9 of the 10 commandments still apply, but the Sabbath it doesn't. And now it's like I'm looking at, like, I wish we had a law that would just make me do nothing for a day. You know, it's like there's a law where nobody can make me do anything for a day, and all I do is just like hang out and think about God. You know, like because I know that it seems like there's this appearance that we have all this free time these days. Like, oh, there's some, but in actuality, what do we do when we sit on the couch to relax? We pick up our phone, and then I don't know about you, but once I turn on my phone and start scrolling, like my mind is not relaxing. I'm getting stressed out, and I come home from my job, and it's like if I can do all the other chores that I got to do, then what I really want to do is work on one of the projects that I want to work on. And I might get a few hours a week to do what I really want to work on, you know? And then what I really want to do beyond that is just actually rest, and just truly rest, and like sit and stare at the sky and have absolutely no responsibilities just for like an hour, you know? To where I'm not thinking about like, I need to do this or I need to do that, or worried about something. Like there's really not much free time in the modern world. It's all accounted for, and it's all bought and sold. And I was thinking about like even our vacations, it's like, oh, we got to get to the airport at 4 a.m. and then all our time is accounted for doing all this stuff. And it's like I have to set up time to. It's like talking about the learning to love, or like loving people. It's like I have to set aside time to see the people I love. And there's something about that which kills part of the experience, that I have to work in order to just like be around people. And so it'd be nice just to have time that is actually free. And I was thinking like the best gift card that anybody could give me is just like a gift card for free time. You know, it's like you get 3 hours of time stops, and you just get to just chill for 3 hours, and like there's nothing that you have to do for that time. You know, that would be the greatest gift card. You know, so if you're thinking about getting me something, gift card of free time. And I think that's why Christianity is the way, because the reward is infinite free time and eternal life. And so actually I was making a video just the other day talking about this stuff and I deleted it. So now I just hijacked your stream to talk about it for a second. You know.
All good.
So
No, I appreciate that. I like that. I like that kind of idea of like the vacation becomes the labor itself. So then when you have those discussions of like, man, it's the whole like I need a vacation from my vacation. Which is why I think I take great delight in the spontaneity that I kind of have. I kind of have the luxury of, I guess, being single and having a lot of free time and mobility. And so I can kind of hop from like church function unit family to church function unit family spontaneously and get these many like you're like I just want time for other people. And I kind of have that blessing and luxury to kind of just be like, oh, I got invited to this thing to just come hang out and watch a movie. I guess I'll do that. Or oh, they're just chilling. I got invited. Sure, I'll just go hang out over there. What else is there to do, right? What better things is there to do? And that's something that I don't think I take lightly. I appreciate it. But yeah, the projects thing too. So the caveat was like your whole like I just wish I had like 3 hours of like free time. You would need restrictions though, right? Because I think the instinct, unfortunately for us, in that like I do what I don't want to do and don't do what I do want to do, is that you would probably be like, I'm gonna sit on the couch and let's see what's on the like. You would have to be like, but you have
right.
to take this away. But you have to give me like parameters. You have to give me that which the tools for that time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I say that time that is truly free would almost have to be on the other side of the eschaton, because we're still just like we're still enslaved to the well, not enslaved, but we've got the flesh, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like there's always going to be those draws because it sounds great to go sit under a tree in a public park, but once I do that after 10 minutes, I just start thinking about somebody that pisses me off or something, and it's like it's not, and then it's not free anymore.
Right.
So
Yeah, you ever
yeah.
consider like a silent retreat, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been on a retreat like that, like a real spiritual retreat. I've thought about it. Yeah. Have you ever done one?
No, I think I will at some point. I'm sort of waiting for a Kairos moment in my own life. Then I'll know it's the right time to do it.
What do you mean, Kairos?
Like there have been moments in my life where shit goes down and then it's like, all right, we need some sort of in between transition ritual.
Yeah.
So silent retreat would be that's what I'm thinking. Because then if it's long enough, you can't escape yourself. Basically you force yourself to go past the distractions, whatever those are. It's like a colon cleanse of the soul.
I had that with my car trip to Atlanta. That felt like a retreat in some respects. I was on the road for 6 to 8 hours by myself in new territory, kind of as a stranger and like a nobody, which that's kind of fun. That might be something to talk about. But there came a point both on the trip up and especially on the return trip back where I was like, oh, I have to deal with these thoughts that I'm thinking about and make sense of them. Also because I was like seeing a friend within that like day as well who would then want to hear what I was thinking about and talking about. So I was like, well, I guess I might as well sort and process this out. Not that a long car ride is going to be everybody's like thing or solution, but I find that for being on the road for that long, there's only so much music you can kind of drown your thoughts out with before you're like, all right, you need to just like look at the road and make sense of what keeps coming into the mind, because it's like it's usually the same things. It's not that it's like constantly like scattered. It's the same kind of patterns or like different things with the same kind of thematic core and stuff. That's just what I have experienced recently, and dare I say wouldn't mind doing it again.
this whole idea it makes me think of the Sabbath. The first instance where the Sabbath is supposed to be observed is when Moses and Israel are in the wilderness, and God sends the manna to them, and He says, "For 6 days there'll be manna, but on the sixth day gather twice as much." It doesn't say anything else besides that. And on the sixth day they gather twice as much. But then on the seventh day, there's people who go out looking for more, and it's then that the Lord elaborates further. He says, "On the sixth day, I've provided twice as much, so that you wouldn't have to gather for the second day. Go into your homes and no one come out." As like a forced day of rest, but not a day of rest where you're just ignoring your responsibilities. It's that day has been provided for. You don't have to go seek food. The Israelites in the wilderness didn't have anything else to do. They would follow the cloud. When the cloud would leave, they would get up and leave. But when it would stay in one spot, they would just stay for who knows how long. And on that seventh day, they didn't have to worry about gathering food. They didn't have to worry about their enemies or anything. There was nothing for them to worry about materially except to rest, to go do things they desired to do that were pleasing to God. And so also heaven is described as, Hebrews described as entering God's rest, or the Sabbath rest, where not just ignoring your responsibilities, but there's no longer, you don't have to worry about them because they're fulfilled. You don't have to worry about working to pay your bills or to buy food for your family. Those things are presumably taken care of, and when we have time to work out of our lives, that made me think of.
We got most of that except the end. The end it roboted. The reception. Yeah, it's still roboting. It's possible that if you shut off your camera, that the reception, then the voice will come through clearer. But I don't know if that's like just speculation, but people have speculated.
Camera. Is that better? I don't know how to turn the camera off. But,
Oh yeah, no, that's clear. Yeah, whatever you just did, it's very clear.
Okay. But yeah, well, the last thing I said was that's the picture we kind of get of heaven in Hebrews. It's described as entering the Lord's rest, the Sabbath rest of the Lord, where it's not just ignoring your responsibilities for a day or a couple hours, but those needs that you have are taken care of. You don't have to worry about going to work to pay for your bills or to feed your family. Those things are taken care of. So you have this time that you're able to freely give to the people around you, to the Lord, to whatever it is will be good. So that desire obviously is something that God recognizes and He's put there purposely. It's even one of the 10 Commandments is to honor the Sabbath, this day that's supposed to be set aside specifically, not to do any menial tasks, and a day to be of rest with your family, with your community, doing things of value that aren't just monetarily valued. It's an important idea. It's not just being lazy or not wanting to work. There's something very valuable in it that God recognizes.
Yeah, 100%. And I think in America, like, people bristle at that there should, it's like, yeah, 6 days we just work really hard, but then on one day we just chill, and it's not lazy, it's like we're told to, Jesus said He'll give us rest, and we're not supposed to be anxious. So it's like, I don't know. Yeah.
But the Son of Man says that God made the Sabbath for man, not man for the Sabbath. What do we make of that? Now, which of you having a son fallen in a well on the Sabbath wouldn't pull him out?
Well, I think what needs to be done, if it needs to be done on the Sabbath, needs to be done, and there's consideration for that. However, if there's time for rest and an opportunity for that, by all means take advantage of it because it's given to you. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't see any conflict with that. Pulling your son out of a well isn't really a 9-to-5 job. That's not work. I would consider that work. That's a duty. That's something you have to do to preserve anyone's life, especially your son's. I would consider that work necessarily.
Well, you guys were talking about, this was earlier in the conversation, but you were talking about St. Paul saying it's totally fine earning money for his weight. Sorry, earning money as part of work for the Lord, but he can't do it. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more? Because I'm less familiar with that scripture. I have read that, but I'm less familiar with that.
Well, I read it yesterday, so I can't quote it exactly, but he wasn't saying that he can't do it, but that he doesn't do it so that he can gain a reward in heaven, a heavenly reward, or some other reward.
That's right.
Yeah. And that really...
It's like the praying in public thing. Like, don't... Yeah, so or if you do good in a way where it can't be repaid to you, because then it has to be repaid by your Father in heaven.
Yes. And that really, really got my head spinning, because it almost feels like screwed, almost like he's trying to get a better deal out of God. Said, I know I could be compensated for my work, but I'm not going to. So that's, I can get some more out of this. Like he's making an investment
type stuff.
But it's not. It's coming from Paul himself. So I feel like it's not being condemned. So it's like,
it's coming from Paul, the former Pharisee.
Yes.
Yeah, it reminds me of the parable of the dishonest steward. But you know that parable? I love that parable. And like most people hate it. They're like, I don't know what to do with this. But I have
we went through that in our group, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
What was the consensus? Yeah, what was the consensus of your group on that parable?
If I remember correctly, it was that we're supposed to make use of all of our resources here on earth for the kingdom. Like, use them wisely. If you have money, use your money to win people to the gospel, to be charitable, to be whatever, because the money that you have here isn't going to be valuable to you. Basically, to be smart with your assets, with your resources for the kingdom. That's the gist that I remember of it, at least. Henry probably knows more.
I mean, that was a substitute night where I wasn't teaching, but I think that was that, like, you buy friends now to have them in heaven, right? So it's that kind of whatever means necessary to bring people into the kingdom. I think that was part of it.
Yeah. Make friends with dishonest mammon.
Mark S says, good stuff. Thanks, guys. Good meeting. Double portion. Yeah, that was really cool, Mark. Thank you for hopping on for a little bit this evening. That was really fun.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you too.
So yeah, that's a fun, challenging parable. The other thing too is that kind of backs up everything of like what are you going to worry about, like what you eat and drink and wear and like wealth, because then that's also like, oh, these things will be added unto you, but then you're also going to do stuff with those things that are added unto you. Like, it's going to be for other people as well. Like, you'll get it, but then you need to use that for the purposes of the kingdom as well.
Use it or lose it, or be called a fool who heaped up stuff in barns.
Yep. Let's see what's on the agenda for tonight, unless we have anything else we want to say about this particular matter. Look at my cool branding.
It's awesome.
So I don't know. We don't have to talk about any of this stuff. Yeah, this is a great, not a great acronym. I'll make it great. Anyway, Neil, if you want to give your super special rant, we can do that. I don't know if I actually want to talk about solving hypergamy again, even though I think it'd be funny.
Yeah. My rant. Yeah. It doesn't feel like it's in line with the spirit of what we were just talking about.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe we should put that on hold. We could.
No. That means we should definitely talk about it. Let's hear it.
That means we should definitely talk about it. All right.
This is it.
I don't think the problems of our current moment are that complicated. Like, I had this realization of the problems of our current moment are really very simple. It's a combination of two things. It's two things. And there's a third thing that magnifies those two things, but it's really the two things. So one is the Pareto principle, or the Matthew principle, where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, or you can call it, I mean, you call that whatever you will. But so it's that principle that applies to just about everything in nature. And the second, I don't have great language for the second. It's something to do with like a prioritization of safety or comfort or something like that above everything. Like it's basically turning fear into an idol, whatever you're fearful of, and doing everything you can to like feel safer or reduce the vulnerability or reduce the likelihood of anything bad from happening. Because the simplest way to reduce bad things from happening is have less possible opportunities for anything to happen, period. So like if the chance of something bad happening with another person is so like if the biggest chance of something bad happening is when I encounter another person, then the simplest way to solve that problem is to reduce the number of people I encounter. Or if I can't reduce the number of people I encounter, I could reduce the intensity or the latency of that encounter with another person, such that it's like the shallowest, safest, hi, thank you, very polite, and nothing else. And so this is very safe, this thing, I'm holding up my phone for double portion. DeAndre, wait, sorry, I missed your name. I know Henry said it, but Diani. Okay, got it. Diani, cool. Got to write it down. Diani. What was I gonna say? Yeah, so it's this combination of Pareto, because we've had various times in human history. Okay. If you look at economic history, you only need to go back like 100 years or something, but just looking at economic history, but it goes back further in that you have these periods of economic growth, and then also the growth of inequality that happens with economic growth. Inequality, also widens. And then what happens is a big like earth-shattering event. So the last one was World War II. And so World War II like wiped out inequality. And it wipes out inequality because basically businesses get destroyed and wealth gets destroyed and, people die. And then it sort of like flattens the playing field again. And then the cycle happens again where you have new industry and new. But there are ways of flattening the playing field without war. It does happen. So an example was Teddy Roosevelt, Trust Busters, early 1900, splitting up various businesses, unionization occurring, union efforts where workers get organized and basically force employers to pay living wages, etc. But war is the simplest way through that, because war is the great leveler. And I don't know, this this comfort anxiety, or that's the thing, I don't have a word for it. I listened to the thing where Peterson was surrounded by 30 people. What was that called? So
The
Jubilee. It was
Jubilee.
Jubilee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was it.
And I'd listen to one where there's the called him California Man. And California Man was talking to Patrick Bet David about, I can't find a job that fits in with my values. I can't, all these things. And he had constructed a prison of his own acceptable, I'll call it an acceptable comfort prison. Like, I can only do what's in my comfort zone, and the prison of the comfort zone had contracted to be like the smallest possible thing. Like, my job has to pay $500,000 a year, but it also has to save the environment. Oh, and I also need international travel in my job, because I need to be able to like stream my job to my thousands of countless fans. Oh, but in addition, if I'm doing international travel, I need to be able to offset my greenhouse gases by planting forests in like Tanzania or something. And then the next thing I need is, I also need like a perfect 10 as my partner, because if I don't have the perfect 10, then we're not going to have perfect 10 babies for my Instagram feed. And then also like my follower. Sorry, I could only go so far with that. But it's like, yeah, so like, that's a video game. Like, that's why guys play video games, because like, oh yeah, I can be a perfect 10 assassin, like, taking out the like, the king or whatever. And then, I capture, or I set free the perfect 10 dame in distress and like save the day. That's what a video game is. Anyway, so what and it's like, yeah, again, I don't know if it's safety or comfort, but it's just easier and simpler to defer to like my lowest common denominator imagination of what I want. So that combination of like the comfort and safety combined with this like Pareto distribution. So you have this real wealth inequality that's steadily growing all the time. And right now, the scapegoat of our time has seemed to become like the immigrant, you could say. But like, as I see it, it's inevitable that the scapegoat becomes it's inevitable that the scapegoat becomes the rich, or those that have the things that, so like, you can only play the imaginary game of the video game. You can only play that so long as you have the free food stamps and the free education and the free housing and the free this. And like, when let's say physical reality runs out. So if we run into a recession, which by the way, I think we are heading toward a recession. There are things on the horizon. So when the economic free lunch runs out and physical reality hits, and the wise, and let's say the dumb man has built his house upon the sand, the video game ends. And then combined with that video game ending, you have the resentment of the real income and wealth inequality. But not only that, it's like a competence inequality also. Anyway, that's where I think we're heading, and I'm really worried about that. Yeah, because I see resentment growing. I see resentment growing about people in their current state. That's right now, I think, aimed all over the place. But what tends to happen is when the shit hits the fan and you enter like a physical hardship, like an actual physical hardship, resentments tend to collapse and coalesce. And I think it's, yeah, anyway, so That's what I'm worried about. And if we had a legitimate grassroots effort similar to the early 1900s to reduce the power of monopolies, to boost up worker wages, it's easier and it's cheaper for large scale corporations to incentivize scapegoats in other directions. Incentivize identity scapegoats, incentivize basically all the divisive politics that we've had. But like the Pareto problem is a real problem. It's that's a real problem. And I'm not even saying that like poor Americans have it bad. It's not really the issue. Like poor Americans are doing fine right now. They are doing fine, and no one's starving. And like you can find, if you're resourceful and you're willing to make sacrifices, and you can find you know housing. It's not fantastic, but again, it's never been fantastic throughout human history. So it's still, what I'm saying is that even a very, very poor American still has a better situation than someone like on the prairie in the 1800s, all alone on the prairie. The real issue is, as I see it, the resentment and just the absolute wealth and income divides between the ownership class, you could say, and how that's fracturing the American soul. Because through the power of social media and technology is a magnifier of all of these things. And through the power of social media, the lifestyles of the rich and famous, you could say, are widely accessible from a video game perspective, but not from, and then simultaneously you could bring the hypergamy problem into this,
Sure.
which is, at the end of the day, I think most young men would just simply be happy with a simple life, the simple wife, a piece of property that they can call their own, and people that love them locally in their local life. But only 20% of young people under the age of 30 are married. And
Yeah.
so what happens when we hit the tipping point of a society where the majority of young people are not married? What does that look like? Or sorry, when the majority of people, period, are not married, will we get to that point? Anyway, like I said, this is a rant. There's a whole bunch of things in my head. I
Sure.
just, yeah.
What came to my mind, I don't know if you made the connection clear, if I just had misheard or not heard it entirely, is that these things, if you're living off of video game standards, so Scott posted in the chat, there's no growth of that person, the world you constructed. The world that's constructed is the video game world. That's the ideal, and that's what people want. But if the Matthew principle's in place, right, that's only going to make, I guess, that desire stronger if these people can't, I think, get over the fact that that's not going to happen, that the video game principle doesn't exist. And this, I've been thinking about a lot of this, because this also reminds me of what PVK was talking about on like a video the other day. He's bringing up social skills of the young like children currently who are like iPad kids and stuff. And I actually was this morning. And I was like, oh gosh, walking into school, about to like experience that generation and these kids who are very helpless and don't have enough skills to, I think it's a mess. And so the problem though is that what is televised is the video game life from the 1%. It's that whole thing of like the Silicon Valley people don't let their kids like live off the iPads and stuff because they know better. I lost my train of thought. I wish I could tell my kids, and I really probably should, that the world hates them and that the powers that be hate them, and that these like, and not in that like be resentful, but like figure out what it takes to get past that. Figure out what it takes to not be so susceptible to that, because so many of them are going to be, will, if not now, then like very soon or very far off, do that. And I there's not much agency as a public education teacher I have even to do that, but I think part of that like solution is that you need to do I think what I even kind of discussed in this little agenda of like building the community and like creating that is realistic, and creating that which is not the ideal. Maybe it's the ideal, but it's far more realistic of one for mankind and far more healthy and reasonable for man or woman, right? Which is, as you said, a wife, some land, maybe some sort of property, a domain by which to kind of rule over in some respect, and that's enough. But that's not the goals, and that's not the dream, and that's not the aspiration. So then you have California man with these extremely unrealistic goals fed upon him, brought upon, generated because of XYZ thing bred out of the Matthew principle, right? And so it's kind of this like feedback, negative feedback loop in this respect, I think.
Yeah, but physical reality tends to break that reality. Meaning like when there's a famine or a flood or
Sure.
yeah, when something actually happens that breaks that the dream world. Yeah.
I think I'm going to try and like spin this into another thing that's been on my mind that I wanted to bring up
Sure.
with regards to like the post-estuary discussion, people
Mhm.
coming off of that mountain into this like, oh no, I'm back in reality. I think
Mhm.
Peugeot said it at the panels, right? That the part of the goal of the estuary is that you take what's learned and stuff so that then you can go back to the reality, and it's the elixir essentially.
Mhm.
But my brain didn't go to that. My brain went, okay, well, if the only space by which you receive these mountain experiences or the space in which you are maybe in higher ground is only in the corner and the spaces you're only in higher ground is in the digital space, then maybe some work does need to be done in the real world in cultivating a community, not like the corner. It won't be like the corner, but something that does maybe that which the corner does and more or differently or different. Because I was reflecting with some friends, and I think I've told Diani, I it's kind of watching everybody do estuary and seeing where the group is right now is really sweet because 5 years ago this wasn't what it was, and 2 years ago the group wasn't where it was even, and the communities and the networks that I get to participate in have been both like a blessing from God and then in turn like something that I've helped to cultivate and build as well. It in this like I'm being used for that which I benefit from and which others benefit from, and I don't know. I think that more people maybe could do that, should do that. So like when PVK says like go find a church, I think it's go find a church, but like with extra steps, because then it is like, ugh, here's all the responsibility. Ugh, here's all the bureaucracy. Ugh, here's all the like things that I hear about that it makes me not want to do a church. It makes me just want to do the corner. But there's whether it takes 5 months, 5 years, right? Something will, I think, hopefully be born out of it that is meaningful and good and true. Mark Lefevre, in like my favorite video from like his like intimacy crisis video from like ages ago, because I still cite that, said it was with Andrea with the bangs. That's one of my favorite videos, by the way, out of the corner, like early stuff. Anyway, he said like if you're expecting a miracle to happen in like a relationship, but you only give it like 5 months and the miracle is supposed to happen in 6, like you're never going to see the miracle because you're not putting enough time into the thing. And I would say the same exists in like these IRL spaces, and there needs to be maybe the lenses need to come off in some respects. Is our church, Diani, like the corner? No. Is the community
No.
that we have together like the corner? Absolutely not. Do I want it? Do you want it to be like the corner? No, I don't want it to be like the corner,
Well,
because it
but
has a very
before
different function.
before you think I'm a doomer, and I'm not at all. Because the first instinct, I think, in response to everything I laid out is something like the Benedict option from Rod Dreher, which is like, let's get everyone who thinks like us and let's get them into a custom bottom up, top down community, whatever. And we build a nice wall around it so no one else can threaten us. And we live with all the good people by ourselves in this one space. So that, and I'm thoroughly convinced that's precisely the wrong answer. So that's the first idea. Then the second instinct is like, okay, I got to make myself friends on this fallen world so that when the shit does hit the fan, I can go and I can crash someone's house, or I can ask for help, or I can do the and I think that's also still manipulative and what's the word? Left brain, Machiavellian, and it's and I think that's really what makes Christians is that the third option is you walk by faith and not by sight. Meaning I feel called to this space, this TLC, not a space, but also setting up an estuary in my local church. I think it's actually going to be the first one that actually is in a real Catholic church, which I'm excited to be. That's a little bit of Neil pride right there. Yeah, the first Catholic estuary. That's pride goeth before the fall. So I do keep that in mind. But anyway, so I don't know where this is going, and I just trust that the people I've met, including you, Henry, and Diani, because I trust Henry's judgment. I don't know Diani that well, but it's really cool starting to get to know you, and your Bible verses have been awesome. But like just getting to know people that I really genuinely enjoy talking to and hanging out with, and not knowing exactly why, like not knowing exactly where it's going or what I hope to accomplish from it, but just trusting the Spirit in the moment. I don't know, that does allow me to not be anxious about my life in the moment, and it is an adventure because I don't know where it's going, but I feel like it's with the right people in the right place in the right time. So that's how I think of it.
Gotta play God's Plan by Drake. God's Plan. I'm just kidding. Sorry, that's a bad inside joke. Forgive me. Yeah, I don't know. I think you throw the seeds where you can, when you can. And I think, and this is, I'm not even doing it in the evangelical kind of way, just like throw the seeds where you can, and like where it grows, take note of where that grows, and like, I don't want to say in that selfish, like reap the benefits, but like participate in the harvest when it happens, whatever that looks like. And I guess, if it is the corner, it's the corner. If it is your church, it's your church. If it's all these different, I think ideally it's if it's all these different places. I think stretching the net out wide is a really good idea. Actually, that's kind of what I feel like I've done. And it helps a lot of like, okay, there's lots of, it's nice to know that you're not alone, and not that you're not alone because you have one group, but you have like lots of different places. I think of like anime, and I think of like those really long shonen where it's like the main character has met like a million different people, right? And like at the end of the thing, everybody's like, "You can do this. You can go," and they like have like the cheerful moment. You have like the little montage of everybody like in bated breath. Not that it's a main character syndrome thing, but to know that you have so many people that you know, and they know you, and you trust them, and they trust you in so many different pockets. Sometimes they're compartmentalized, sometimes they're all know each other, sometimes they're very distant, but you're the common link. That, I don't know, there's something nice about that.
It's like the spirit bomb in Dragon Ball Z.
Exactly.
It's like at the very end of Dragon Ball Z, Goku, he has to do this super final attack, and he needs everyone's energy to do it. And you get flashbacks of like every single Maya character that's weird, and a bunch of random people. It's like, hey, that's Goku. I'm gonna help him out. And they raise their hands in the air. And the people all over the world raise their hands in the air to power up Goku. It's like that.
Oh, I found the clip.
That was the fight with Frieza, right?
It's Boo, isn't it?
No, this is the one with Mars Boo. Yeah.
I think I have seen that. But like, yeah.
For your viewing consideration, it is now in the chat. So yeah, I don't know. Get the spirit. Make sure you have the spirit. You can when you have to use the spirit bomb, you have the spirit bomb. Or if others need to use the spirit bomb, make sure that you can give them your energy for the spirit bomb. This is what the future of Estuary is. As much as Zoomers talking about anime, that's what
it does. I mean, one of the reasons I love being countercultural. I still got the punk rock streak in me, and I love it that we have this like secret network that's not actually secret at all, and you can join, but
Yeah.
it's a parallel network to the real world. It's like being in the Matrix, and except it's real, and it's like y'all can be in the regular thing, but I'm gonna be on the I'm gonna be in TLC. Yeah. Anyway,
TLC versus
Sorry,
Christian YouTube has become so much more apparent to me. You're gonna say something, Deani?
yeah, I gotta go. I gotta get off.
Oh, okay. Man.
Come to the end of
Well,
my walk.
do you have any final
I
words you
love-
wish to impart?
Final words. Well, it's not really related. We kind of moved on, but I was thinking about when Neil was talking about the like when a catalyst moment happens, like a famine or a flood, that things kind of level back out. And I was thinking those things come from God. As far as we know, natural disasters only come from God. I have a couple coworkers who think the government's behind it all. You know, they control earthquakes and stuff. But as far as we know, those things come from God, and those are not an accident. Those are the beginnings of a thought I was having, but we moved past that. But besides that, no. Then I thought about the spirit bomb. Those are the only insights I had, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm gonna keep watching, but we gotta go in.
Okay.
Once my wife.
it's nice
I'll
meeting
see
you,
ya.
Deani.
Nice
Hope to see
meeting
you
you
around.
too, man. All right.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Deani.
Peace. So did I hear you right that you don't have school tomorrow, Henry?
No, I do have school tomorrow.
Okay, so it's not end of the week.
No, I don't know if you ever have this phenomena, but I often find that I guess I'll remove Deani from the stage as he tries to disconnect. I have this phenomenon usually that my Thursday nights are usually more exciting or fun or like generally worthwhile than my Fridays. I don't know why, and so I'm just like, all right, this is gonna be my Thursday thing. Because it's fun. No, I have to go to work tomorrow. And I have to finish or not finish working on writing essays again a second time already. It's a difficult job. It's a very difficult job, to say the least.
How has that changed as a result of generative AI?
Actually, my kids, I do everything on paper, and I get annoyed when they use their phones, and I usually can tell when it's AI because I read their regular writing, and it kind of is painful. I mean, it's really rough.
Yeah.
A lot of them are not on standard for reading, and so that's the problem. And I don't remember where the data comes from, but it's the idea that like if you can't read past a certain grade level, etc., and if you're missing these developmental milestones with regards to like I had an iPad as a kid because my parents didn't want to deal with it, right? They can't think at a higher critical level, and so it's really difficult sometimes to get them to generate thoughts about topics that I think that even they should be able to come up with things for. Like one of the prompts is like, because this is all a writing course, and honestly, some of these students should not be in this course given the rigor and kind of the complexity of it. And I think a normal English class would be far more beneficial to them. And that's not against them. That's just how it is. And it's frustrating as a teacher to see them struggle so much, and not in a productive way, just struggle. But this prompt question, I was like, this is the easiest one for you. You should know these things of like to what extent does modern communication bring people together? I'm like, you guys use this stuff all the time. And then some of them just can't generate their own thoughts, reasoning, etc. Because the other challenge of this course, they're like, do I get a document? Do I get a paper? I'm like, no, this is from what you know about the world. I'm not giving you primary sources like your previous courses. What do you know about the world to help you build specific
Think,
examples?
McFly. Think.
Right, exactly. It's very, very unfortunate to say the least. So it's just a very difficult job. I have a lot of the same students from the last 2 years, which is nice. And so there's a familiarity there. And that makes some of the management of the classroom a little bit easier overall.
Mhm.
But the actual coursework is difficult to present to them specifically because so many of them struggle. So, hooray.
I have selfish motives for asking you this question
Okay.
because I am also going to be a high school teacher starting in 9 days. That's right,
Oh,
9 days.
shoot.
Let me explain the situation.
Mr.
So
Daedalus.
so my wife's aunt asked me, there is about 10 minutes away from where I live, there's a Vietnamese Catholic church, historically Vietnamese, called Saint Agnes Lê Thị Dan. And my wife's aunt asked me like 3 or 4 months ago, she's like, hey, because she knows I do this weekly Bible study, and I've been doing it for about 7 or 8 years, and I'm basically at the point of like teaching adults. And so about 4 months ago, she said, hey, Neil, we're looking for a Bible teacher for our for our, high school kids that need to go through. Basically, this is the preparation work for them to be confirmed into the Catholic Church. So at the end of 11th grade, they get confirmed into the Catholic Church. And she said, would you be willing to teach the Bible portion? And I said, yeah. So, and I've had it sort of percolating in the back of my mind, like, how do I begin to teach the Bible to high school students? And it's way worse than that. So I'll lay out like my whole plan. And then from your professional standpoint, you could tell me how SOL I am. And, I'm eager to see how well I can do, because I'm good in front of a class, man. I'm a good teacher. You'd be impressed. I bet you would learn some stuff from me, given I'm
Okay.
used to teaching adults. But like, not to toot my own horn or anything, but it's one of my best skills is like teaching in front of people. I'm very good at it. So anyway, right.
Shoot,
Do you
go
have
for it.
questions, or did you want me to just lay out
Just lay it out.
Okay. So, so I went to meet with the nun, the sister that is like kind of the head of the education program and the director, and got to understand more of like what their expectations were and all that. And so, okay, so initially I thought I had them basically every week leading up to like basically 30 weeks. That's what I thought I had for every class, like leading up to May, when the class ends and confirmation for the 11th graders occurs. But it's a lot rougher than that, because I only have like one grade basically. So there's like 12 or 15 kids per grade. And so it's like 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th grade. So it basically rotates. So I have like 8th graders, and then the next week I have 9th graders, and the next week I have 10th graders. And I only have like 45 minutes to an hour for this Bible class. And then the one other additional constraint, which don't get me wrong, I love constraints. Like I know that creativity thrives under constraints, but I do have this additional constraint, which is they would like the students to actually know, because they go to mass immediately following the class. And so they would like them to know a little bit about the readings for that Sunday, at least a little bit, such that they're ready to sort of prepare for the mass coming out of that class. So I was thinking about this, and I was like, okay, here's my plan. So for the very first class, and this goes for 8th, 9th. So I'll basically repeat this part 4 times, because like, first of all, let me back up even further before I go into it. You can't teach the Bible in like 22 classes, let alone like, I really only have like 7 or 6 classes per class for the year. So I have like 6 hours for each student basically for the year, something like that. And like I can't teach the Bible, it's way too complicated. But more importantly, it's like, it's not actually what I care about. And I said this to the nun, to the sister. I said, what I really care about is that they are strengthened in their faith, that they actually have and keep their faith. because when I was at that age, that was when I was deconstructing. I was going from probably started deconstructing right around 14, and it just kept on going. And then 9/11 occurred when I was 16, and that was like the real that was like the Rubicon, where like after 9/11 I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I don't want to be religious of any kind. So okay, so how do I instill faith in them and while teaching the Bible? And then what is it that I really want to do? And okay, so here's my plan. I'm going to draw a big circle on the board and put at the top of that circle the Bible. And I'm going to say, okay, we're going to open in prayer, but right after that, then I'll say, so what do you know about the Bible? And anything that comes to your mind, and I want to get a sense of like what I'm going into. And then right around that big concentric circle, I'm going to write all the things on the board that they come up with. And I'll put people on the spot if they don't volunteer. So, and I'll make that clear. Like if you don't raise your hand, I'm going to call on you. So, okay, so we put all these things on the Bible, and then I'm going to draw another circle within the Bible, and I'm going to label that Jesus. And it's going to be the inner circle of the Bible. And then I'm going to say, okay, what do you know about Jesus? And people say, oh, he walked on water, resurrected, all this stuff. Okay, put that all on there. And then I'm going to say, so although you don't know it yet, Jesus is the center of the Bible. And then I'll hold up a Bible and I'll, say like, well, only this tiny little portion of the Bible is actually about Jesus. So why is he the center of the Bible? And I'll get their thoughts on that. And then I'll ask them, have you ever read a detective story or a mystery story or a show? Have you ever seen a show or a movie where something occurred in the beginning of the movie or towards the beginning where you didn't really understand why it occurred early in the movie, and then you only understood it near the end of the movie? You only understood how the pieces come together at the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to write on the board, I'm going to say the greatest story ever told. And then I'm actually going to erase that and create a space. And I'm going to say, well, actually, it's the Bible is the greatest mystery story ever told. Because everything that Jesus does, you can relate it to other parts of the Bible. But it only makes sense in retrospect if you connect it back to Jesus. And my goal is to treat every class as like a mystery, where we're going to start with the gospel and we're going to relate that back to other parts of the Bible.
Okay.
Now, I have the really good fortune of the reading for September 14th. So Sunday, September 14th. The reading is with Nicodemus. Actually, I can look it up right now. I'm getting really into the weeds. If I'm boring you, please let me know.
I might just ask a couple clarifying questions. And
no,
in a moment.
No, you could do it now. Yeah.
One, how much do these students, or do you expect these students to know simply by being in the culture of the school?
I don't know.
Okay.
I assume they know a little bit about the Bible because presumably their families are Catholic. They're only coming to this, they're coming to this because they're not in a Catholic school, but they need Catholic education before they're confirmed into the Catholic Church. So presumably
extracurricular. This isn't a part of their actual schooling. This is a separate course. Like this isn't a part of their schedule.
That's correct.
Okay.
But they have to take these classes. So it's every Saturday. They have to take these classes in order to become confirmed in the Catholic Church.
I see. Okay. Yeah. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, that clears stuff up. So my brain was like, Neil, if they're in Catholic school, you probably don't need to open with the circle mystery thing. But that makes sense if they are. And you have to do that.
Catholics notoriously know diddly squat about the Bible.
About the Bible. I've heard that joke. I grew up with a Southern Baptist grandmother.
Well, I don't want to assume anything.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess my next question is, what are the key, like, are you going to do key concepts, or are you going to do key stories that then you're like, this is the mystery, this is how we track back with Jesus, like for like the 7 weeks you have essentially with these groups?
Sorry, I bugged out for a second. Can you hear me
Oh,
okay?
yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, sorry. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, I was going to say, so if you have 7 weeks with each of these grade levels, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12,
Mhm.
what are your top 7 concept, not top 7, but what are the
Yeah.
7 concepts or stories that you're going to hit that you are then going to absolutely trace back to Jesus to ensure that they have at least some sort of broader knowledge?
Yeah.
Because this is the
Yeah.
thing that my friend and I do all the time, kind of in like our young adult group. He did Life of Abraham for a little while and would just like do scripture references and jump back and forth to those things. But what are the key ones that you're going to do?
So I am very open to your ideas and thoughts on that very topic,
Okay.
but with one frame in mind, which is I want to start with the gospel reading. I want to start on that premise that Jesus is the center, which I do believe, and then I want to from the gospel reading, I want to relate that back to or forward, into Acts of the Apostles or letters of St. Paul or um, yeah, but I just want to start with the gospel and then kind of trace it out from there. But let
Okay.
me give you an example. So the readings for September 14th, so at USCCB is United States Catholic Bishops. Do you mind me showing like some Catholic stuff on the screen?
I don't care. I
I'm gonna
have
show Catholic
go
stuff.
for it. Do you need me to pull my rosary out to like?
Woo, we're
Do you
doing
need me to
Catholic
grab?
stuff.
Hold on. If we're doing the Catholic thing,
Got to wear my cross on the outside. There we go. Actually, mine's
okay.
tiny.
I got my Catholic stuff. I have my little sketch drawing of Mary that I was gifted by a friend.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I have.
I don't have anything of Mary. No, that's not true. I do have something of Mary.
This is coming from an evangelical too, so I'll get gotten for that one if anybody finds this. I got gifted this by my coworker and dear friend's mother because when I was dabbling and figuring out what Catholicism was all about, I read Chesterton sometimes.
Yeah, Chesterton or J.R.R. Tolkien for that matter.
I do that too.
Okay, so these are the so the USCCB is United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, and it's kind of the go-to for the readings, and it's the feast of the exaltation of the Holy Cross. Holy Cross. So there's always within a Catholic Mass, at least the Novus Ordo. I think in TLM also the traditional Latin Mass, it's also this way. But in the Novus Ordo, which is the hippie Mass, my Mass, it's always Old Testament reading, then an epistle from St. Paul, and then the gospel. But I'm going to start with the gospel. But the gospel is perfect for this detective story. It's so good because this is the gospel. Jesus said to Nicodemus, "No one has gone up to heaven except the one who has come down from heaven, the Son of Man." So we could do Son of Man references. We go back to Daniel. Oh, it'd be great. And then this is just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the desert. Yeah, we go back to Exodus. It's so good. And then the serpent imagery, like what the heck is that? And we'll go to Genesis, and yeah, so the Son of Man must be lifted up. Yeah, and then all that. Like this is such a good reading to start with. I saw this and I was like, providence. Thank you, Lord.
This is cool. Okay,
Yeah.
So I think this is a really good springboard to start with. I think it would be content overload, but you could, if you really wanted to, be like, all right, food for thought. Let's just try and see how this little piece of the gospel does help us fulfill this mystery of this other like strange text before. And just in that first session, be like, this is basically what we're going to do every week, but like different. And just make very briefly your connections back. You could do that. That could be like your cold open per se. Since we're not playing by like regular teaching rules, we don't have to do like weird cooperative stuff. This isn't like a standard thing. So
yeah,
I will
have other adults supervising me, but because they have like basically adult catechist chaperones that are with them when they come in.
And they're like they're this in the background. They're just like
exactly.
If you mess up,
it's that discipline.
Yeah. So, I think this is a really good start. But I think I would maybe either use this as your springboard for the key concepts you want to talk about, or key other stories that are core to understanding the Bible across time, or use this merely as a demo of what you're going to do. So what comes to my mind immediately as to, oh shoot, a cameo from my boy. This is the man who preps this stuff.
De
This is
Jesus.
yeah. This is my
He's
guy. This is
actually
my
Chris from Jesus. So
yes.
his name is literally Christ from Jesus.
Yep.
That's like,
This is my boy. This is my boy in the chat right now. So what you can do is either use this as a springboard for everything, or you do that mini demo in real time for that first session. Be like, these are all the connections we can make from the Gospels back to this Old Testament reading.
Mhm.
The things that I think that are most important in terms of like broad span, like understanding the Bible, and I think you know them too, is creation, Genesis, like broadly life of Abraham, like all that. That's kind of one kind of clump. Maybe just like life of Abraham, right? Um, the Exodus.
well, you need the
Um,
fall. Like the fall
okay,
is,
sorry. The
yeah,
fall, life of Abraham,
yeah.
the Exodus, very broadly, first Judges through kind of like Second Samuel and what these kings and judges represent as a
Mhm.
concept. Am I at 3 or 4? 4? I'm at 4.
4 probably. Yeah.
I'm at 4. Okay. Um, Babylonian exile, and kind of what the not necessarily explicitly like into the detail of the prophecies, but what is the function of the prophets?
Yeah. Yep.
And then that's 5. I think we're at 5,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? And then what does kind of the return kind of represent and mean? And then it's obviously like Jesus is the actual like means by which he returned. And then maybe like close out your like 6 or 7. That during the time you have with these kids with kind of like, and now Jesus like fulfills this, and how does he fulfill these things?
Mhm.
But like I think if you had each week of like, okay, these are the 5, 6, 7 concepts I want to do
Yeah.
with selected readings, I think that would be the best thing to do, because that gets you a broad enough strokes kind of read or picture
Yep.
of scripture as a whole and the Bible as a whole.
I think I do want to keep it seasonal as well, in that
Okay.
for December, I want it to be based on the Advent season. What is a Messiah? Like, what does it mean for a coming? I think I can relate it back to a lot of the kingship stuff, for instance. Um, but and I want it to, so the resurrection, Easter season, relating that back, and then Pentecost, coming of the Holy Spirit. So that would be more Acts focused. Um, but yeah, I think I would choose. So that already locks me into like 4 of the 7. If I
Yeah.
have something that's like Pentecost themed, Easter themed, resurrection themed, then the snake lifted up. Um, yeah. Uh, there's no way I'm covering everything, but
No,
yeah.
but
But
I think you could do pretty decent 45-minute masterclass summaries of certain key concepts.
yeah. Yeah. But I want it to be participatory too. Participatory knowing.
Sure, that makes sense.
Mhm.
So do you
Because
want like
what I really want is them to get curious about the Bible, and curious to the point of like, oh, I could figure this out. I can, like, learning the patterns and the trends of. Now,
sure,
I probably won't inspire that in the majority of kids, but even if I inspire that in like 2 or 3 kids of a 12, like where they're like, oh wow, like I can actually begin to make sense of like this crazy
yeah,
tapestry of complexity.
that makes sense. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I like this idea. I don't know how like heavy you want to just do like lecture style, and I don't know how heavy you just kind of want to do um just like open forum with this either, unless you're like, you could maybe encourage them to try and pull those connections out if you have select readings that day and you're
Mhm.
like, hey, what do you make of this? And then what do you make of this? Do you see any connections,
Yeah.
familiarity
So I'll
between
give you
these
some
two?
examples. I'll say like the Son of Man. Like what does that mean? Like why? And if nobody, so maybe a precocious person or two will raise their hand and say, "Oh, Jesus calls himself the Son of Man sometimes." And I'll say, "Oh yeah, yeah, that's correct." But do you know why, or have any? And then I'll say, "Okay, turn to this page in your Bible, and that will be the prophecy from Daniel." And then I'll have someone in the class read that, and
Okay.
then when we get to like the snakes in the desert in Exodus, like biting everybody, I'll be like, okay, so what does a snake represent? Like what do you think of with a snake? Like if a snake just slithered in here on the floor, like how would you react? Like what? and then come at it from like a visceral symbolic standpoint. What is the snake? And we'll go back to Genesis and okay, what is it that the snake is tempting? And anyway, I have some ideas. Like, why is it that the snake is nipping at the heel, so to speak? It's like the least, well, I don't know how much I'll get into that. Like Achilles' heel, it's like the part of you that's most vulnerable because it's the furthest away from you and you can't see it. It's the blind spot. Neshutan, I don't know what I don't speak Hebrew. I speak Southern U.S. right here in this United States of embarrassment.
It's the bronze serpent on the staff. It's the Neshutan.
Oh yeah, the bronze. Okay, that's the official term for it. Yeah,
there's some Hebrew.
I know what a monstrance is, but I've never been to Afghanistan or Neshustan.
But
yeah, that's right. That's how we roll. Once you become a millennial like me, that's how it goes.
Can't do that. I just can't do that. I'll wear my honorary badge. But I like this idea. I think that this requires a lot of, and I think you'll do it, obviously. It's very intentional planning about which select documents you want to do.
Yeah.
Like once you figure out exactly the big broad concepts you want to hit every given week, it should be pretty easy to then kind of fit in the select scriptures you want to definitely be like, this is it. This is the gospel connection. This is it. This is what Jesus does that makes this make sense elsewhere, right? Like the Nehushtan, right? That makes so much more sense with Christ lifted. It doesn't really do that in the moment. Like it doesn't make sense on its own. And Peterson's read on it.
It makes sense. I mean,
sure.
So the reason vampires can't see themselves in the reflection is you can't repent or change unless you can see yourself.
That's true.
And the reason that's relevant is like the reason you stare at the snake is like you have to look at your sin before you can change. That's what it means.
Yeah.
Like you can't be healed of your sin until you actually look at it.
Right.
And same thing for Christ on the cross. It's like until you begin to stare at Christ at the center of everything, the rest of it's not going to make sense. It's not. Yeah.
No, anyway, I think I like this.
That's a low resolution representation.
Sure. No, I like that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I like this idea. I don't know how much insider input I actually contributed, but
I mean, you're a legit teacher. I'm a wannabe teacher. I am gonna be.
I feel like a wannabe teacher sometimes when I walk into that classroom and the chaos that exists shows up. I think 90% of my job and what is then actually remembered by any given one of those kids is that I showed up to help them before it's any of the writing crap that they don't want to do. Because right now I hate this class, but I'm glad that I have you as a teacher, Mr. Leglider. And it's like, I understand. I don't like this either.
Maybe for some of them, you might be the only adult that they feel really cares about them.
And I see that already. But like even for you, like you might, I don't know, obviously be very intentional about the content, and you're like, I want to instill that faith. I want to like be the one to help present that. But that you're existing and doing that for them might be that which does that thing. Be like, oh, there's this cool guy, Mr. Daedalus. And it's
Mr. Jordan. I'm gonna dox myself in your stream.
Oh man, I wasn't gonna do that to you.
There's so many Jordans in the corner. How many Rubicons have to be crossed for us to be convinced that the corner is a liminal transitory space?
I don't know. So anyway, when they say Mr. Daedalus, this guy, Mr. Daedalus, taught me all this stuff. I kind of can't remember it, but he really was interested in it. Made me interested in it. Like that might be enough.
Yeah.
Or could be enough.
You don't want to be like Icarus. Don't fly too close to the sun.
No, never assume that your content is A+ masterclass work either.
We'll see how it goes. I'm teaching the 8th grade first, so I figure if my initial plan goes well with 8th grade, hopefully it'll be, fine with 9th, 10th, 11th. So
that's an interesting age I've not worked with. I've actively stayed away from like middle school age.
Mm.
I don't know what it's like though. Okay, so I'm also coming from the like Title I public education world, and so
Mhm.
students coming in to get catechized in a space, I feel like is a very different thing. So I don't know what your vibe's going to be.
Yeah. Well, I'll report back on
Yeah, I want to hear about it.
unfocused thoughts on teaching high schoolers Bible
Perfect.
class.
That's fun. I've done it before with the youth group, and there's a couple of them that are like, "Oh, this is neat. Oh, this is really cool. Here's a question I have," and that's really nice to see
Mm.
that interest that is then kind of imparted in some way.
Unfortunately, I don't have 2 earrings in my left ear like David J. Busatil, who I met at Midwestuary. It's like the coolest Gentile at Midwestuary. One day I want to be a goy like him, but for now I'm just Daedalus.
Just Daedalus. That's okay.
Yeah.
I like just Daedalus. Well,
JD with WWJD, what would just
what would
Daedalus
just Daedalus do? Perfect. That'll be part of my viral marketing for this channel.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I think I'm gonna try and wrap up this stream. I have to get
Okay.
ready to go to bed to go to work and teach
It's,
writing. I don't get to teach the Bible tomorrow. My kids
it's
did
better
ask
to
me
teach
about.
writing than wronging.
That's true.
It's a dad joke. That's millennial.
I don't-
I figure if 1 out of 3 we're batting 300, all-star.
I did have a moment. My kids were getting into this like religious conversation, and obviously I'm not about to do my thoughts on it. They kept
Mhm.
mixing up because they're ignorant, like Christians and Catholics. I'm like, no, 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 no. Everything branches from the Catholic Church. You need to remember
Yeah.
that. Like, and then so they were supposed to be writing, and I completely fell right into the trap of like just like baiting and like falling into what they want to talk about.
Because
But
being a Christian is way cooler than being a Protestant. Because the word Protestant
exactly,
is just like,
so lame. It's
no, we
so
want to be for something, not against.
against something. We're always in a state of protest, except we're not really, and that's a different discussion.
Yeah.
So anyway, what would just Daedalus do? Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Thursday night post-Midwestuary chill out. I've been your host, Henry. With me tonight, Neil Daedalus, Mark S., Double Portion, aka Diani. And I think that's it. Thank you to everybody who's been in the chat tonight. I'll do this again at some point, maybe Thursday nights more regularly. Not every Thursday night, but most.
It was
So,
fun.
That was fun. All right, I'm going to figure out how to close this out with some fancy music. Good night, everybody, and enjoy the weekend almost ahead.
Peace.
Wait, hold on. There we go.
Yeah.